Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady who transformed Britain. Margaret Thatcher, born on October 13, 1925, in Grantham, Lincolnshire, was the first female Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and one of the most influential political figures of the 20th century. Known for her uncompromising leadership style, she earned the nickname the Iron Lady and became a symbol of conservative ideology during her time in office. Serving as Prime Minister from 1979 to 1990, Thatcher implemented sweeping economic and social reforms that reshaped British society and had a lasting impact on global politics. Her legacy, both admired and controversial, continues to resonate today. Early life and education. Margaret Hilda Roberts was born into a modest family. Her father, Alfred Roberts, was a grocer, Methodist preacher, and local politician who heavily influenced her values of hard work, self-reliance, and individual responsibility. Her mother, Beatrice Roberts, was a homemaker. The Roberts family lived above the grocery store they ran, and Margaret grew up in an environment of thrift and conservative values. As a young girl, Margaret excelled academically and earned a scholarship to Kesteven and Grantham Girls' School. She later attended Somerville College at the University of Oxford, where she studied chemistry. While at Oxford, she became involved in student politics and served as president of the university's Conservative Association, laying the foundation for her future political career. After graduating from Oxford in 1947 with a degree in chemistry, Margaret Roberts briefly worked as a research chemist. However, her interest in politics remained strong, and she soon shifted her focus from science to law. In 1951, she qualified as a barrister, specializing in taxation law. Early political career. In 1951, Margaret Roberts married Dennis Thatcher, a wealthy businessman, and changed her surname to Thatcher. With her husband's support, she began to pursue her political ambitions more seriously. After two unsuccessful attempts to enter Parliament in 1950 and 1951, she was elected as the Conservative Member of Parliament (MP) for Finchley in 1959. Thatcher quickly gained a reputation as a hard-working and capable politician, and she rose through the ranks of the Conservative Party. In 1961, she was appointed Parliamentary Under-Secretary at the Ministry of Pensions and National Insurance. By 1967, she was a prominent figure within the party and was appointed as a spokeswoman for economic and financial matters. Thatcher's big break came in 1970 when the Conservatives, led by Edward Heath, won the general election. She was appointed Secretary of State for Education and Science, making her one of the most senior women in the British government at the time. During her tenure, she earned the moniker Margaret Thatcher, Milk Snatcher, after cutting free milk programs for schoolchildren, a decision that would come to symbolize her tough, cost-cutting approach to governance. Becoming Conservative Party leader. The 1970s were a turbulent time for Britain, with economic stagnation, rising inflation, and industrial strife causing widespread dissatisfaction. In 1974, after the Conservative government led by Edward Heath was defeated in a general election, the party found itself in disarray. Heath's leadership was increasingly seen as ineffective, and a leadership contest was held in 1975. To the surprise of many, Margaret Thatcher emerged as the victor, becoming the first woman to lead a major political party in the UK. Thatcher's leadership of the Conservative Party marked a clear shift to the right. She rejected the post-war consensus that had dominated British politics for decades, which emphasized a mixed economy, high taxes, and government intervention in industry. Instead, she championed free market policies, limited government, and individual responsibility. This ideological shift became known as Thatcherism. Prime Minister, 1979 to 1990. In 1979, the Conservative Party won a decisive victory in the general election, and Margaret Thatcher became the first female Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Her government faced immense challenges, including economic decline, high inflation, and widespread industrial unrest. Thatcher's response to these issues was bold and often controversial, but it would come to define her legacy. Economic reforms. Thatcher's economic policies were grounded in monetarism, a school of thought that emphasized controlling the money supply to combat inflation. She believed that the state should play a minimal role in the economy and that market forces should dictate economic outcomes. Her government implemented a series of radical reforms aimed at reducing the power of the state and encouraging private enterprise. One of her first major actions was to cut public spending and reduce direct taxation, shifting the burden towards indirect taxes like VAT, value-added tax. Her government also introduced policies aimed at curbing the influence of trade unions, which she believed were obstructing economic progress. This culminated in a series of confrontations with labor unions, most notably the miners' strike of 1984 to 1985. Despite fierce opposition, Thatcher refused to back down, and her government eventually succeeded in weakening the power of the unions. Another key aspect of Thatcher's economic agenda was the privatization of state-owned industries. Under her leadership, major companies such as British Telecom, British Gas, and British Airways were sold off to private investors. Privatization was a cornerstone of Thatcher's belief in the free market, and it was designed to promote competition, efficiency, and a property-owning democracy. While Thatcher's economic policies helped bring down inflation and restore confidence in the British economy, they also resulted in significant social upheaval. Unemployment rose sharply in the early 1980s, reaching over 3 million by 1983, the highest level since the 1930s. Many working-class communities, particularly in industrial regions, suffered severe economic hardship as traditional industries like coal mining and steel manufacturing declined. Foreign policy in the Falklands War. On the international stage, Margaret Thatcher's tenure as Prime Minister was marked by a close relationship with the United States, particularly with President Ronald Reagan, with whom she shared a strong ideological affinity. Together, they formed a powerful alliance that played a significant role in the final years of the Cold War. Thatcher was a vocal critic of the Soviet Union, famously describing it as the evil empire, and she supported Reagan's efforts to build up military defenses against Soviet aggression. One of the defining moments of Thatcher's premiership came in 1982 with the Falklands War. When Argentina invaded the British-controlled Falkland Islands in the South Atlantic, Thatcher responded with decisive military action. She ordered a naval task force to retake the islands, and after a brief but intense conflict, British forces successfully regained control. The Falklands War significantly boosted Thatcher's popularity at home and solidified her reputation as a strong and determined leader. The Iron Lady and domestic challenges. Thatcher's unyielding approach to governance earned her the nickname the Iron Lady, a title she embraced. Her leadership style was characterized by her refusal to compromise on her core principles. Whether dealing with political opponents, trade unions, or foreign adversaries. Throughout her time in office, Thatcher faced considerable opposition from both the Labour Party and within her own Conservative Party. Her economic policies were highly divisive, and her handling of social issues, including cuts to public services and housing policies, alienated many working-class voters. In 1987, Thatcher won a third consecutive term as Prime Minister, an achievement not seen since the 19th century. However, her third term would be marked by increasing dissent within her party. One of the most contentious issues was the community charge, commonly known as the poll tax, which replaced local property taxes with a flat-rate tax on individuals. The tax was deeply unpopular and led to widespread protests and riots across the country, resignation, and post-prime ministerial life. By 1990, growing opposition to Thatcher's leadership within the Conservative Party culminated in a leadership challenge. While she initially won the first round of voting, it became clear that she no longer had the full support of her party. On November 22, 1990, Margaret Thatcher resigned as Prime Minister after more than 11 years in office, the longest continuous tenure of any British Prime Minister in the 20th century. After leaving office, Thatcher remained an influential figure in global politics, continuing to promote her ideas and policies. She delivered speeches, wrote memoirs, and took part in international conferences. In 1992, she was made a life peer and entered the House of Lords as Baroness Thatcher of Kesteven. Her later years were marked by declining health, including several strokes and the onset of dementia. Despite her health challenges, her influence on politics remained strong, with her legacy continuing to shape both British and global conservatism. Legacy. Margaret Thatcher passed away on April 8, 2013, at the age of 87. Her death prompted both tributes and criticisms, reflecting the polarizing nature of her leadership. Admirers praised her for revitalizing the British economy, standing up to the Soviet Union, and transforming Britain into a more market-oriented society. Detractors, however, criticized her policies for deepening inequality and causing long-term damage to Britain's industrial base. Despite the controversy, there is no doubt that Margaret Thatcher was one of the most significant and transformative leaders in British history. She reshaped not only the British economy but also the political landscape, making conservatism and free market economics the dominant political force in the UK for decades. As the first female Prime Minister of the UK, she also broke gender barriers and opened the door for future women in leadership positions. Her influence extended far beyond the UK, as her policies and leadership style had a profound impact on the global stage, particularly during the final years of the Cold War. Today, Margaret Thatcher remains a figure of fascination, a symbol of determination, and a leader whose legacy continues to shape modern politics.